Hey, I'm Josh. Today we're taking a trip out to my living room because they're doing construction in the front of the apartment. I won't be able to judge speakers or headphones properly, and I can't assess them for the next couple days. So we're going to be talking about speaker placement and how important it is really. And because I love putting arbitrary numbers that don't have any research or statistical data behind things, I'd say it's about 40% of a good speaker system. But seriously, bad placement can ruin a good speaker system faster than a fat kid can pick up candy. Placement can actually be so important that you can take a speaker like this mic RB42, which is a great little speaker, but if you put these out here properly and you put them in the right position, these speakers become a little soundstage and imaging monsters. Especially when you get somebody in here who hasn't really ever heard a good speaker system. My girlfriend had like 2 cousins and their 3 bandmates over the other day. These things blew their socks off, because they were just set up properly, and I dragged them out to the middle of the room, had them set up, had them sit in the middle, optimal sitting position, and it was amazing, and they loved it. And really there's one tip that I think stands above all of the rest. Tip number 1 is actually the experimentation acceptance. And by experimentation acceptance, I mean accept the fact that for each different speaker you have, you're going to have different optimal positions. Yes, usually it does revolve around the equilateral triangle, but you're going to have to accept that for the prime sound that you can get out of any given speaker, you're going to have to kind of experiment with toeing in, moving it back towards the wall, moving it away from the wall. You're going to have to do a lot of different things to really optimize that performance, and you're going to have to accept that that's going to be part of the process. But once they get set up, they're amazing. Okay, so tip number 2 regarding the actual setup is that equilateral triangle. Rarely, in my experience, has every speaker been perfect in a perfect equilateral triangle. And what an equilateral triangle is that all distances between all 3 points, being the right speaker, the left speaker, and yourself, is the distance is equal. Now, the reason why I say it's suboptimal is because in my experience, it kind of depends on the room that you have and the speakers that you have. Some speakers are going to be doing a little bit better, a little bit closer, and their imaging may not be as finite as it could be. For speakers, imaging is a lot like drawing a line on a rubber band with a pen. And then as you stretch it, that line stretches out and that imaging gets less and less pinpoint. Now, some speakers can handle that stretch really, really well, and they can hardly, bat an eye with it. And then other speakers get heavily affected. So some speakers can push further away, and then some are gonna have to move it a little bit closer. You're gonna kind of have to close that angle of attack to get the best imaging. But there are other things to consider, like if you're in a rectangular room lengthwise, in that room, you're gonna wanna have a slightly different speaker setup than having a rectangular room widthwise like we're in here. Now, tip number 3, which is gonna be one of the more impressive things about sound staging and imaging that you can get, which is the depth factor. In my experience, there are some speakers that can do this without really great setup, like the Vanna2 T0s or the Vanna2 T1 Encores. You can set those up at a desk and you're getting pretty good depth. Yes, they certainly benefit from a good speaker setup. They do, but they can also give you the depth in a bad, backed up against the wall on a desk. They can still give you that illusion of soundstage depth. So right now, that speaker is actually not that bad in terms of placement. I mean, it sounds good, but it's certainly not set up as well as it could be for that amazing sound staging capability. So right now, the back of the speaker is about a foot off the wall. I'd like to get it to about 2 to 2.5, maybe even 3 feet. So I just have them on stands that actually have slidey feet on the bottom, and they line up exactly with my TV stand on each corner of each box lines up perfectly, so I know exactly where to place it. And then I pull it out about 15 inches, which is the entire length of that box. So that's gonna look something like that, which is a lot better. And for that depth, it's great. And then, when a girlfriend comes home and she doesn't want it there, her or I can just push it back and slide it back into place, and it looks all pretty and neat. And for me, for my life circumstance, that works really well. And then I get a great listening experience when I actually am playing music. Then repeat on the other side and we're good to go. Okay, so tip number 4 is actually going to be height. And this is just a personal one. Not everybody really has the same preferences or care that I do with height, but I want my sound to have the illusion of coming from exactly where my eyes are looking. I don't like it to seem lower. I don't like it to seem higher. And so I'm kind of a little bit taller than the speakers are right now, but my couch is lower. And when I'm sitting on my couch, those are exactly eye and ear height. Now, you can angle speakers up or angle speakers down with various mounts. You can also get like a yoga block per Z's recommendation for a little bit of a riser. Now, tip number 5 is going to be toeing in and toeing out. Most speakers, I think, sound good pointing directly at the listener, but not every speaker needs to, and you might actually get better side sound staging if not everything is directly towed in. Now, I'm just gonna give you broad advice here because this is really gonna go speaker to speaker, but like those Emotiva B1s, they need to be pointed at you or else they don't sound right. For some reason, the off-axis sound of both the bass response and the treble just doesn't hit me right, so it needs to be pointed at me. Whereas the Vanuatu T10s, they're a lot more forgiving and I can get great sound that doesn't irritate me at all while they're pointing directly forward and not directly at the listener. So what I would do is I would pick 1 or 2 tracks that have both great examples of either imaging or soundstage or optimally both. Some of Yoshi Hirakawa's tracks would be one of my recommendations. And if you want more information on that, stick around for Monday. Wink, wink. Start your speakers from a flat, straight line position and then start towing them in a couple degrees at a time until you feel like your imaging is where it's at and your sound staging is where it's at. Now, there's a couple things you might need to do, and this is where the experimentation might come in. If, for example, your imaging is really good, but your sound staging on the right speaker and the left speaker is kind of poor, well, if your imaging is already good, start moving your speakers apart from one another. Or if your sound staging is really, really good, but your imaging is poor, start moving your speakers a little bit closer. If you're not getting a lot of depth, try moving them farther out. And if you get the distance from the back wall and the distance from the right and left wall and the toe in and the height correct, you should be hearing something pretty freaking magical. Now, if it's still not working for you, there's a lot of potential things. It could just be a limitation of the speakers. It could be the environment that you're in. You know, the room could be extremely reflective. It could have strange echo or resonance or reverb, and you could have cancellation of certain frequencies. There's a ton of things to go over. But in today's video, we're just talking about speaker placement because that whole thing is a black hole and it gets very complex very quickly. I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm sorry for any construction noise that you guys can hear, and I'll catch you on Monday for a new type of video. And I'm hoping you guys like it. So stick around, hit that subscribe button, turn the bell icon on, leave a like, leave a comment. Likes and comments do help other people find the channel to get more people into this hobby. And I'd appreciate it, guys. All right, thanks for watching. Peace. Almost as if on cue, I actually ordered a new amplifier about a week ago, and it literally just showed up right as I was editing this video. So I guess we'll make that part of the video. This amp was actually recommended to me by DMS for a speaker amp. So it's a Rotel, and we'll go ahead and open the box real quick. So I gave this thing the good old once over, and it's looking pretty good. There's a couple cosmetic things like this volume dial over here. And I don't quite want to take it apart because the internals right now look really good. I just got to set it up out there and see how it sounds when it's all set up. Knowledge. No, I'm just kidding. There's not even my books.